Warning. This program may contain material of an explicit or graphic nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Broadcasting undead, partially from the B ward, partially from Dom's house. This is Post Mortem. I'm Dom.
And I'm JD. And today, in honor of Dom's miraculous recovery, almost Jesus-like recovery, he walks again. The man can walk.
Jesus-like in the sense that I haven't recovered yet.
We're going to give you our top 5 horror movie surgeries. Dom isn't here in the B ward. Like he said, he's at his house. We're doing this via the same way we do our interviews.
I am laying in my bed right now, recovering from surgery, feeling like I had my back cut open and metal screwed into my spine. But we're doing it, goddammit, because we ran out of back episodes.
Yes, and it's been a long time since we last recorded. I mean, it's been over a month. We had some back catalog because we knew Dom was going under the knife. Under the blade. But those are gone. So we hope you enjoyed those.
What was worse than going under the blade, though? Was getting the catheter shoved up my dick.
Oh, I thought you were going to say me singing that part right now like that.
Getting the catheter shoved up your dick is actually worse than that, and that's saying a lot.
I know. If anyone's heard our post-mortem karaoke, they know.
Which is weird because we're both musicians. But
yeah, but it has to be ridiculous. So.
Right.
So, let's cut to the chase. It's time for some horror news. Horror news.
All right, I'm going to fire us off with some real-world horror news.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, I think it's gradually becoming mine, too. So USA Today reports that Zoe Adams, a 19-year-old from Wigton, UK, has pled guilty to unlawfully and maliciously wounding with intent to do grievous bodily harm for an attack during which she stabbed her boyfriend, at the time, Kieran Bewick, then 17, 5 times in the chest, arm, and leg. Adams, who is obsessed with grisly murder videos found online and human sacrifice, got stoned and stabbed her then boyfriend in the chest multiple times during sex, all while painted up like a clown. Adams asked Berwick to put a pillow over his face to make it more kinky, police said. Then she told him, "Trust me," before stabbing him. Bewick felt his lung pop and squirt during the stabbing, according to the BBC. The teen managed to escape and fled to get help from a neighbor, police said, and he suffered a collapsed lung. Adams told officers that at the time she had blacked out and had no memory of the attack. Her 17-year-old victim is not so fortunate. He will have to live with the physical and mental scars of Adams' actions for the rest of his life, Detective Constable Calvin Grebe said in a statement. During the trial, the court heard that images of sexual violence and murder were also found on Adams' phone, and that she had sent Bewick pictures of strapped-up human corpses earlier in the day before the stabbing.
Wow, so that's why you never take your eye off a juggalo.
Whoop, whoop.
That's clown love and clown hate mixed together.
Yeah, but I think that's like non-consensual clown love, which the ICP is against.
Wow, that's an interesting story. Usually when you think of clown rape, you think of John Wayne Gacy, not a female clown, but she's owning it.
She is. She picked a gimmick and she's sticking with it.
So for my first horror news this week, I have something from Robert Eggers, director of The Witch, which we were both not really a fan of, but we'll see where he's going with this one. Have you heard of The Lighthouse?
I have not.
So he wrote and will direct it. Editor Louise Ford has revealed some details about the film this week, telling Mandy News that Eggers will be shooting the film completely in black and white. It's set in 1890 and we're shooting on 35mm black and white stock, virtually unheard of nowadays, she says. Mostly black and white movies are shot in color and then converted into black and white in coast. The dailies look beautiful and it's very exciting. The film is about an aging lighthouse keeper named Old. Very inventive. An aging lighthouse keeper named Old. So, black and white. So, I think that what Robert Eggers is going to do is get like Nicholas Winding Refn levels of pretentious.
I can see that happening. Yeah, for sure. He's going to start watermarking his credits and shit.
Yeah, and so the only good part about it is Willem Dafoe is set to star, and it's also going to feature Robert Pattinson, who is one of the Twilight vampires, but he was in Maps to the Stars and was really good in that.
You know, I've seen a lot of TV interviews with Robert Pattinson, and he seems like he's a cool guy. He actually got suckered into doing Twilight, because when they initially decided they were going to make those movies, they told him it was going to be an action movie like Blade, so he signed on. And then they got Twilight, and he fucking hates those movies, and has said so much in some interviews.
They said it's like Blade, but with glitter.
It's
And
like Blade.
it's like a combination of Blade, but with glittery boy bands.
That about sums it up. It's like Mormon Blade.
So yeah, I don't know about the Lighthouse. I don't know if I can give Robert Eggers another fucking 3 hours of my time. If it's probably going to be as long as it is black and white. I will check it out because he does have talent. He does have an eye. His films are visually beautiful, but I think The Witch is very overrated, as do you, and a lot of people do not agree with us, and that's okay because you can have different flavors of horror. They're all good.
His short films that he did before The Witch were really good. He did Telltale Heart and Hansel and Gretel, I think, was the other one that he did. And those were both awesome, but his ideas seem to hold up better in short films so far. I've got some good Halloween news coming up. Universal plans to unleash a new maze based on the film Trick or Treat at Halloween Horror Nights 2018 in Hollywood and Orlando. Last year's smaller maze was so popular that Universal partnered once again with Legendary Pictures and director Michael Daughtry to bring Sam and his friends back for more in an expanded attraction. This year's Halloween event at Universal Studios will also feature an attraction based on the Upside Down from Stranger Things. I'm curious about these.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I mean, we went for the bachelor party. We went to horror nights. I'd like to go to more of those kind of things.
Yeah, I had a good time. I've been twice, and I had a good time both times. And their mazes are very good quality. So I'd be very interested to see what they do with both of those. And I guess there was a smaller Trick or Treat one last year, and Kyle went, and he said it was really good. Kyle Wilde.
Yeah. You know what? I will tell you though, the Zombie Joe show I saw was way better than the Universal Horror Nights, which was way more expensive. That little 1 hour show I saw, brief maze in, brief maze out, with basically a collection of skits of different things.
And you don't have to wait in line.
Featuring gore and nudity. You have to wait in line a little bit, but it's not bad. You have to wait in line for the maze because they send you in groups of like either by yourself or like with your significant other, but you don't go in like a line like in groups like big time, you know what I mean? They send it through because it's like highly produced because it's a short maze, so it's like individual interactions. But it was better than anything that I think instead of going to more of the mainstream ones, I think I'm going to check out the little indie ones and the extreme ones where they beat the shit out of you and stuff.
Yeah, I think while I'm very curious about the extreme ones, I don't think my back and neck are cut out for it, at least this year. But I do want to check out like Alone or like the more existential and like abstract sort. Is the Zombie Joe one where they touch you?
No, not at all. No, they jump out at you and stuff like that. No, it's not physical at all. And then it's like it's almost like if you went to a sketch comedy show or something like that, like a what do you call it? Like Groundlings, not sketch. I guess it is sketch comedy. I guess it
like
is,
an improv show.
Like an improv show. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. If you went to something like that where you sit down and you watch it, but there is things that like go by you and stuff like that. But it's not. You could handle it. It'd be fine. You wouldn't get hurt. It's not like if you have injuries or stuff, it's not gonna like re-break your back or anything because it's not one of those ones where they grab you and fuck you up and shit. And I do.
By the neck.
Yeah, and I do owe our buddy Jason, who comes on every October to tell us about the extreme haunts. I owe him one because he hosted me and my wife. Him and his fiance hosted us. When we went to that Zombie Joe's. So, and he showed us all about it and everything. So I owe him one. So next time we're going to be going next October, and you got to go with us. So.
Yeah, I am down.
All right, so Alexandre Aja, director of High Tension and The Hills Have Eyes remake, is now going to be trying his hand at virtual reality with a new anthology series called Campfire Creepers, which is almost supposed to be like an immersive Are You Afraid of the Dark?
That's cool.
The series, produced by Oculus, Future Lighthouse and Dark Corner, invites the viewer to join a fire circle at Camp Coyote as a group of campers take turns telling scary stories, leading you on an immersive ride into your darkest childhood fears.
Wow.
So, sounds pretty awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds awesome so far. Here's the kicker, Dom. The first 2 episodes, The Skull of Sam and Midnight March, starring horror legend Robert Englund, will play at the Tribeca Film Festival this month, with the fest hosting the Northern American premiere of The Skull of Sam Immersive in Cinema 360 on Saturday, April 21st, and the world premiere of Midnight March Immersive in the VR arcade on Friday, April 20th. So these have already happened at the time of this recording. Some of my horror news is a little old, as you can tell. Yeah. But this is something, as this entire time we've been off, I wanted to talk about this because this is a new venue for horror. You know, this virtual reality, not so much the shitty little games, you know, on the virtual reality you hook your phone up to. My son's friend has one of those things, and I checked it out when he came over, you know, the little horror game, and it is really cool. It's a really cool idea, but it's not up to par with what this is going to be. This is going to have fucking Robert Englund, and it's going to be more like you're in a horror movie, or you're watching a horror movie. You're there. You're not going to be like being thrown down or something. It's not like a game. You know, it's not like a video game interactive, but it's more like you're submerged in the world of this anthology horror series.
And it's going to be real people, actors, as opposed to digital, you know, computer animation.
Yeah.
And, you know, I bought one of those setup things where you can slip your phone into it and do the virtual reality thing. And the weakness of those things right now is the control. They haven't gotten the controls down yet. And I found myself enjoying the things more where you just kind of sit and watch it. Like what do you... There's one where you're underwater and you're swimming with sharks. And you just look around and there's sharks all around you, or like the roller coasters that you just sit in and they go. When you have to control it yourself, that's where it kind of falls apart. So I think that this would be cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Doom, but the Doom virtual reality never appealed to me because it's never going to work. You know, like in my mind, like until the technology is so immersive to where like you enter a chamber or something like that, that would work maybe. Like a sensory deprivation chamber or something like that, where your movements are captured, where you're in those suits that they do like the motion capture for wrestling video games. You know,
the holodeck on Star Trek.
Yeah. So now you can check this out. Check it out on Samsung Gear and Oculus Rift via Dark Corner. You can get it on iOS, Android, and it's available now, like I said. So Campfire Creepers, Alexandre Aja, Robert Englund. I'm going to be getting it for sure.
Oh yeah, I'll probably pick up an Oculus Rift just for that. You know what I'm excited to check out when virtual reality gets as good as what we're talking about is the Batman games that they're going to make. That's going to be fucking badass.
I thought you were going to say the porn, and the virtual reality porn, not so much. Not so much for me. Not working.
I checked it out because that's what you do when you get that stuff. And it's,
any technology, the first thing anyone does when they get technology, you have to find out ways to have porn. Like, if you get one of those toasters with the digital display, there's got to be a way to, like, have some boobs on there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. that's what advances technology. Vivid Entertainment, like, was... And this is, like, on the shoot. This is legit. Vivid Entertainment was one of the companies that was actually responsible for the advancement of the internet and creating bigger pipelines for data.
Vivid Entertainment now presenting. You've heard of the Keurig. We want to give you the Bukoffee, our hot brown liquid we pumped out of Bukoffee. That's our rating system. Bukoffees.
Bukoffee. Big old Stephen cup of Bukoffee.
Biff's Bukoffees.
So with the conclusion of Ash vs. Evil Dead on the Starz Network, Bruce Campbell has announced that he has retired from playing the role of Ash Williams in Sam Raimi's splatter comedy universe. But Robert Tappert has announced that the world may not yet be free from Deadites and the mayhem they bring. At Motor City Comic Con, Tappert said that he and Raimi are working on an Evil Dead storyline set in the far future and a time after Ash, possibly for the big screen. Also, Fede Alvarez has once again expressed interest in making a sequel to his 2013 contribution to the story after personal personally polling fans on Twitter and asking whether they want an Evil Dead 2 or a Don't Breathe 2, where Evil Dead won by a landslide, 70 to 20%. Another 10% said he should stop making movies entirely.
That's a horror. Okay, whoever 10%. Let's talk about this for a second. I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, Dom, but 10% saying Fede Alvarez shouldn't make movies at all. The guy's got talent. Let's say what you will about the Evil Dead remake. If it wasn't an Evil Dead remake, it would be great. It's a good movie, but if it was its own thing, it would have been amazing. And he does have some talent. Don't Breathe was good too, but
it's on my watch list for when for while I'm here recovering. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
You got a blind Ike Clannon.
Yeah.
With a turkey baster.
Deserves to be seen. So I did watch Pyewacket, and I did watch Terrifier, and I loved both of those movies.
Yeah, Dom, in your recovery, you probably watched a bunch of movies, huh?
Actually, I spent more time watching all of Gotham. I got hooked into it.
You know what I spent my time doing, Dom, when you were watching Gotham on your recovery?
What's that?
Creating content for our fucking patrons while you sat on your surgically repaired ass. I was sitting here, I was writing stories, Tom. You know how many movies I watched the entire time we were off for a month? The 2 I'm going to review on the show tonight. That is it.
I've watched about 6 since the day I had surgery. I watched 31, and I will say that it was not Rob Zombie's best movie, but I will forgive it because Doomhead is an awesome character.
Yeah, Doomhead was pretty awesome, but yeah. No, I'm just giving you shit, Dom. Actually, I just played a lot of NHL. I think I'm competitive. Next year, I'm going to make the gaming world champion.
Nice.
You know?
I've actually been writing a lot of music. I'm averaging music for no lyrics, just music right now, a song every 2 days, and I've got about 8 songs done now.
Nice.
So I'll probably be releasing 2 albums in the next year.
More music for the patrons. Just like I said, I created a bunch of content. Our patronage has blown up since, we had a bunch of episodes released with the same names. If you guys listen to the episode, we have quite a few more patrons, and the amount of content, we're going to have a new commercial airing. The amount of content, probably not the new commercial today since we're not together, but we're going to have a new commercial with all the names of the new shit that we have, but there's a shitload up there that wasn't on before last time we were live, so.
Every week.
I still have one more horror news. We've been kind of on one of our famous tangents, but this is pretty short because it's a bunch of bullshit.
Okay.
So, Dakota Johnson has claimed that her experience filming the new horror film, Suspiria, the remake, was so intense it sent her to therapy. The 50 Shades star heads up the cast of Call Me By Your Name director Luca Guadagnino's remake of the 1977 classic by Italian horror maestro Dario Argento, alongside Chloe Grace Moretz, Mia Goth, and an unrecognizable Tilda Swinton. Speaking to Elle magazine, Johnson said, "Making Suspiria, no lie, fucked me up so much I had to go to therapy. We were in an abandoned hotel on top of a mountain. It had 30 telephone poles on the roof, so there was electricity pulsing through the building, and everyone was shocking each other, and it was cold as shit and so dry. The film, shot on location in northern Italy at the abandoned Grand Hotel Campo dei Fiori, will receive a general release later this year. It follows Johnson's American ballet student who, after enrolling at a revered dance school run by the mysterious Madame Blanc, Swinton, soon discovers dark secrets abound, and is scored by Radiohead frontman Tom York." So,
wow.
I've heard decent things about this Suspiria remake, but I don't think it's necessary. You know my stance on remakes.
Tilda Swinton's a good choice though for Blanc.
She's a great actress. She is a great technical actress, and I know she'll nail it. I just don't know why we have to have this instead of something else. You could have the same cast, and there's one thing to pay tribute, and some films I like a sequel, but I've had enough remakes, But with the success of it, this is coming. You're going to see so many remakes.
Yeah. That's what Hollywood does. How many times have they made Dracula? It's every 20, 30 years or so, they just start rehashing everything.
If it can make a buck, they're going to do it. So
yeah.
That's it for horror news. We will be back with some Now Screaming Part 2. We got some more movies that are streaming now in your home we're going to recommend. And we got some good, bad movies of the week and our top 5 surgeries. So a little bit longer of an episode this week because you guys have missed out on some live stuff. We just shared a best of. We owe you an extra segment, so we're going to give you some Now Screaming. We will be back after this. Already up this month on our Patreon, we have Creepy Pastas.
Hey, it's a creepy pasta. That's a spicy horror meatball.
My Story Judgment, Delivery by Dom, and my old story, Hunting Season.
We have Post Mortem Off Topic. Featuring stories about G.G. Allen, the Illuminati, and Count Cagliostro.
As well as the Best of JD Horror Deathmatch DVD video download.
There will be more. Music from Mechanical Ghost, Grave Command, Public Defecation, Weapon A, and Old Scratch and the Necrophonic Orchestra.
And my new documentary series, Strogs Docs. Strogs Docs. Episode 1, The Selfie Killer.
And coming soon, a new creepypasta written by me called It Came from Fox News, more off topics, and Strogs Docs 2.
Strogs Docs 2, and I got a good one coming up.
What up, Strogs?
That's on patreon.com/postmortemshow. Now Screaming. We are back with the second ever edition of Now Screaming. You know,
Is that
Dom,
your son screaming in that recording?
it is. That perfect horror movie girl scream is my 13-year-old boy when he was about 11.
Yeah.
And he's like, I could do it better now. So we got a lot of feedback on Now Screaming from our listeners on email and on Facebook. People saying, like, that's a good idea because it's like right now, you know, it's not just good, bad movie, but it's like, hey, you can watch all this stuff if you never heard of it. So I think this is something we're going to do every once in a while. You know, there's got to be gaps because a bunch of stuff has to be added for us to be able to talk about it. But I'm going to start us off with a movie I gave a pretty good review to a while back. Streaming now on Amazon Prime, The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Oh yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch that yet.
Yeah, it was by the guy who made The Lobster. It's a weird fucking movie. It's a lot of metaphor. It's a lot of Greek mythology. It's very slow, but I really enjoyed it.
I'm writing that down right now, so I know to watch it myself.
To me, it was very pretentious. Like, the reasons I didn't like Mother, what didn't work for me in Mother, worked for me in this movie. You may not like it as much because you enjoyed Mother a lot, or you may love it even more. So we'll see. I do. Yeah, Lobster is cool. Killing of the Sacred Deer, streaming now on Amazon Prime.
Cool. My first movie is one that we have actually talked about a little bit on this show, but I didn't realize that it was on Netflix still, and that's Beyond the Gates.
Yeah, Beyond the Gates is pretty cool. I love the whole VHS game thing, and just the store and the brothers, and you get some Barbara Crampton.
Yeah, a little bit of Barbara Crampton, a little bit of throwback to old games like Nightmare, and a fairly interesting movie to boot. It was very good, and it's right now. It's on Netflix.
And let's be honest, it's not going to change the world. It's not a revolutionary movie, but it's a tribute. If it's a love letter, it's a love letter to the genre and to that horror board game. And if you enjoy any of those things, you're going to enjoy this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, my number 4. My number 4 is something that is very popular and talked a lot about in social media. I'm just going to be very brief because I can't talk much about what happens in this documentary miniseries. It's not necessarily a movie, but this is called Now Screaming. It's streaming. We never said it was just movies. So, Netflix, Evil Genius. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
You have not heard of Evil Genius? Okay, it's documentary from the Duplass brothers, who Mark Duplass was in Creep. Starred in Creep. And they also did Room, what was that one called? Room something? It's a anthology horror about the hotel.
Oh yeah, I don't remember what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, fuck. But yeah, Evil Genius, I'll just tell you the brief premise of the first episode, and it keeps expanding. It's 4 episodes long. It's based on a true story. Has a lot of real footage, a lot of interviews, documentary. So what would happen if you were a pizza delivery man? Somebody called in an order, and when you got there, you were placed into a bomb collar that would explode if you tried to take it off and forced to rob a bank.
Huh.
And if you think that's the weirdest part of this little mini documentary series, you are dead fucking wrong, because this shit goes off the rails. I thought that was an interesting premise, and then it just kept going and going, and it almost seems too fucking weird to be true. There's so much going on here.
It's not a documentary. It's actually a real documentary.
No, it's a real documentary with fucking news and interviews. Everything is real. And it really happened. If that is an interesting premise, the weird shit that happens in this, I want to talk to you about it, but I can't give anything away because you just got to experience it. Everyone does. It's pretty good. It's not the best. It does kind of peter out towards the end. I would say that the 4 episodes get less and less strong as they progress. So number 1 being the best, number 2, then number 3 was all right, number 4, you know, it kind of went out. It becomes too much at a certain point to where it's like, yeah, fucking right, even though it's real. Like, the mind can only believe so much, you know?
Right.
The mind can only take in so much information and expect it to be true, even if it's documented, so.
Yeah. Eventually, it reels in horror from too much information.
And that's why H.P. Lovecraft had a career.
That's right. Exactly. It's where his work came from. So my next one is streaming now on Shudder, and it is a documentary, and it is fucking fascinating, and it's like 6.5 hours long. It's called Crystal Lake Memories, and it chronicles the entire Friday the 13th franchise. It's narrated by Corey Feldman. It has all of the main actors that are still alive that were in Friday the 13th movies, all of the producers, most of the directors, lots of stuff from Kane Hodder, and it just talks about everything from the conception of the series to where it went, to the special effects, to the cultural impact it had. It's just this huge, massive thing that you got to sit down and watch all in one sitting if you've got 6.5 hours to spare. But it's fucking great.
Did you ever see Never Sleep Again, the same thing they did for Nightmare on Elm Street?
It was the same people. The same people made.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, that's great. Then that ties in. So here's the problem for me. I can't watch 6.5 hours of anything. I can't do it. It's just I love those movies, but any documentary needs to be 2 hours at the most. Let's say 2.5, 3 if it's something like epic story. But 6.5 hours is too much. There's too much filler. If they would have trimmed the fat, they should release these kind of movies in an extended and a basic cut, in my opinion.
That's what they're doing. What they did on Shudder, you can watch the full 6 hours, or they broke it up into 3 chunks where they end at points that make sense. But this one didn't feel like it had any filler.
Well, that's a great idea, the ending in chunks. But what I mean is, like, watch a 6-hour documentary and watch the same documentary that's 2 hours long. You know what I mean? If you could get the whole story, like if you could, and then if you like it and you're really a fan of it, you can expand upon it and get the more, because they could edit it down if they wanted to and tell the story of the whole franchise in 2 hours. If you could tell the story of a whole life of like a creator or something like that, you know, like there's a way they could do it in 2 hours, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. But watching this, I was never bored at any point. I didn't feel like there was any filler in this. That everything that they were talking about was relevant and like had a reason for being there. And yeah, they could have glossed over it and like made it go a lot quicker. But I really felt like totally satisfied and even kind of wanted a little bit more by the time.
Wow. Okay. That's some pretty strong endorsement. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out then. If it's that good, I'll give it the 6.5 hours and report back to you. All right, my number 3 is another movie that I reviewed on the show. It's streaming now on Amazon Prime. It's my daughter Kaylee's favorite movie of all time that she's only seen once, but asked to watch. Basically, every time she's allowed to pick something, that's what she wants to watch. And I don't know why she hasn't seen it multiple times yet. But The Girl with All the Gifts.
Oh, really?
Streaming on Amazon Prime. Yeah, she saw it and she loves it. You know, she loves horror movies and stuff like that. This is a very interesting take on the zombie genre. There are some pretty unforgivable CGI brain explosions from shots, you know, on zombies, like when there's a shitload of zombies and stuff like that. You know, that's when the budgetary restriction shows with CGI. I'd rather see a bunch of splatter than, you know, as far as money goes, you know, as far as indie horror films with buckets of blood have way better graphics than these films that spend millions of dollars and have the shitty computer animation.
Yeah.
So that's the only problem with it. But interesting take on the zombie genre involving plants. Plants as the
Yeah.
cause of zombies, which is something that, it's happened before, but it's not really a recurring theme. And Glenn Close is terrific in this movie.
Yeah. It's funny that she really likes that movie because it's kind of like a heady concept. Like there's a lot of like deep layers in that movie. But even at the level of how old is she now? 9?
Yeah, she's 9. It's because she's into science. She likes
Yeah.
it because of the plants and the whole, like, oh, this actually makes sense. It's not just zombies bite you, you become a zombie, but why?
Right.
No, these
Yeah.
spores or whatever, like that's the
And
thing.
it's cool that even a 9-year-old can understand it at a certain level and appreciate it. And it is a scary concept because like if you think about those like that fungus that takes over ant bodies, like that's only a couple steps away from something maybe possibly doing that to humans.
Yeah, and I think she can relate to it too because the lead is a child actress, and I can't remember her name, but she was phenomenal. One of the best child actresses
Yeah.
that I've ever seen in a horror movie. So
Yeah, for sure. All right, my number 3 is a movie that you and I both love that I just realized yesterday is still on Netflix. I thought that it wasn't on there anymore, and that is Stitches.
Stitches, yeah, I love that
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, it's a good little horror comedy. It's much better than the box art gives it any right to be. If you look at the box
It's
art, you avoid this movie for years, like I did,
yeah.
because it looks like the shitty like trying to be like serious. It looks like the way that like around the time of like Texas Chainsaw remake, like that branch of horror movies, the
Yeah.
posters of like
Yeah.
Hills Have Eyes remake poster, but like if it was done on a lesser grade, like a shitty imitation of that kind of box art.
Yeah.
And so many movies, even on Netflix and even DVD, had that.
It's
And
like the
I
default
avoid.
setting now.
Yeah, yeah, it's terrible. And
Um,
you wouldn't
and
think it is what it is. That's just this brilliant, funny horror comedy
yeah.
based on the box art. You think it's a shitty fucking horror movie about a clown.
Well, even if you read the description of it, the movie's way better than it has any right to be based on the description too. And when it starts going weird places like the clown cult and all that, like
Yeah,
it's just a fucking good movie.
clown necromancy.
So yeah, if you guys have been sleeping on Stitches, don't go watch it. It's very well done. It's not quite the level of Clown. I think Clown is a slightly better movie,
Yeah,
but
Clown
it's
is much better executed. I think Clown is actually underrated. I don't think that gets enough because it was
yeah,
buried for so long and it came out so long after it was promoted. And then, like,
yeah,
was it Eli Roth? Was it not Eli Roth? No, he didn't direct it. For some reason, it was promoted like it was his movie based on his name at the top of the billing.
right.
And so it kind of just like rubbed people the wrong way, I think, when it came out. But I think
Eli
that
Roth does that.
I think that it didn't get its fair shake though, because
Yeah,
Clown is,
for sure.
is a good transmutation body horror kind of curse movie.
Yeah, and as far as clown movies go, I would say it's Clown, Terrifier, and then Stitches.
Wow, is Clown being the best clown movie?
Yeah.
Better than it? Better than Killer Clowns from Outer Space? Better than
That's the
Pee?
Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but
What? No, Clown is not better than Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I will fight you to the death. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is amazing.
it's apples and oranges, except you're putting a clown nose on both of them. They're
it's,
very different movies.
it's like when you open a tiny little card and a possible number of apples and oranges spill out onto the floor.
Exactly.
An endless supply of fruit. Bountiful bouquet like the fucking Chiquita Banana Girl's head.
When I was a little kid, I actually thought that because Carmen Miranda is the dancer that like the Chiquita Banana Girl's based on, and she had
Yeah.
the fruit in her when she danced. And as a little kid, I thought that fruit was actually growing out of her head.
I had the biggest boner for the Chiquita Banana Girl.
You had a big banana for her.
All right, number 2.
Hey-o.
Number 2 for me, streaming now on Amazon Prime. Surprisingly, at my number 2, but when I put these movies in order, it was the one I liked the second most, and that might shock a lot of people. But we've talked about it before on the podcast back when it was on Netflix, and I reviewed it. But it's a little alien movie called Pod by Mickey Keaton.
Yeah, good movie.
And I've reviewed a couple other of Mickey Keaton's movies, and I didn't enjoy them as much as Pod did. To me, it's my favorite one of any of his movies, but it goes weird places. The acting is so good.
Yeah, it's
And so are
definitely
the
a character-driven thing.
yeah, and so are the effects. The alien actually looks really good, for a movie of this. It's a small little movie. It never gets talked about. It came and went on Netflix without really a whimper. I never saw anyone
Yeah.
posting on it, any of the horror groups or anything that I share the podcast to. Anyone that I know personally. But yeah, Pod, it's worth checking out. If you like paranoia movies and you like alien and sci-fi horror, then it's worth watching. Check it out.
Yeah. It was a movie that I watched because I had pretty much watched every single horror movie on Netflix, and I had to watch something. And when it was done, I was like, why did I put this off? This was fantastic.
I actually pulled a Dom, and I watched it because I saw it, and I had no time, and I needed a bad movie of the week, and it was my good movie that week. I
Yeah.
flip-flopped. So, yeah, Pod. Streaming now on Amazon Prime.
Cool. All right. My number 2 is a movie that I actually watched last time I had major surgery, and I reviewed it when we came back to the show, and that is 3: The Ritual, streaming now on Netflix. This movie is like Russia's answer to Silent Hill, and it starts out really, really slow and then gets really weird by the time it gets to the end. It's one of those other movies that you would overlook because of the box art. I only checked it out because I was high on painkillers and needed to stare at something, and ended up really liking it.
Dom, I tried it. I know you gave
Yeah.
it a glowing review. I tried it, but maybe like you said, it started off slow. I didn't have the patience for it, and I never finished it. And maybe I should go back and give it the chance that it deserves. But yeah, I couldn't do it, Dom. I couldn't do it.
Well, it's still on there. It's something that needs to be watched.
My number 1 is one of my top 5 favorite documentaries of all time. I think it was on my top 5 disturbing documentaries, or maybe on the honorable mentions, but still streaming now on Netflix. I've talked about it a couple times on the show. The Imposter. Have you seen The Imposter yet?
I don't think so. It doesn't ring a bell.
Dom, you have to see The Imposter. That's the next movie you need to see. The
On
Imposter.
Netflix?
The Imposter. I
Oh,
can.
wait, no, I did watch that. That was the one where the dude pretends to be someone's missing child, right?
Yes, and that's all you need to
Yeah.
say. Don't say anything else about it.
Yeah.
Because you can't. You can't talk about this movie.
Yeah.
You have to go into it completely fucking a blank slate.
Yeah.
An open canvas, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
And it says in the description that that's what it's about, but then where it goes from there is totally nuts.
yes, it is. It's one of the most insane things I've ever watched. Like I was saying about Evil Genius, how like it went to places like this can't be. What the fuck? No way. You know what I mean? That's the way The Imposter made me feel. I watched it one night when I was about to go to bed. I stayed up and watched the entire thing, even though I had to work the next day. And then the next day, when my wife got off work, when she used to be working nights, I made her watch it, and I watched it with her. That's how much I love this movie. You have to see it. So, listeners, check it out, The Imposter. I'm not going to say anything else. That's it. That's all I got to say about it. Just check it out, The Imposter.
It's one of those things that makes you question humanity by the time it's done.
That's very true.
All right, my number 1 is also a documentary, and unfortunately, it's a short documentary. It's only 30 minutes long, but it's on Amazon and Shudder. I believe you have to pay for it on Amazon, though. And it's made by the same people who made the fantastic documentary The Nightmare, which is also streaming on Netflix.
Yeah, fuck yeah, The Nightmare. I think it was on my now screaming last time. I fucking love The Nightmare.
Yeah, this one is called Primal Screen. And it's a short documentary about fear of ventriloquist dummies. And it's an examination of this thing called the uncanny valley, where something is just real enough to be real, but also just strange enough to not be real. And it talks about this television commercial for a movie about a ventriloquist dummy that just terrorized all of these people. And it brings in people from Hollywood and like people off the street who are all like given a phobia of ventriloquist dummies because of this commercial. And it says in the description that it's part of a series, and if you look on IMDb, it says that it's part of a series, but the rest of the series hasn't been made yet, and I'm really chomping at the bit to get more of this.
That sounds pretty awesome. I'll check it out. Thank you to the patrons. We have Shudder now. We never had Shudder before, but recently we got Shudder. So thank you guys for your donations and fueling the show. I love you, patrons.
And I tolerate you.
Dom tolerates me. Dom doesn't even like you, though. That's Dom's highest level of appreciation. Hey, you're my bestest of friends. I tolerate you now.
Yep. Well, that's what happens when you're a misanthrope.
All right, we will be back with the good movie and the bad movie after this. You've heard about our Patreon. Something you can do for $0.
0 dimes.
Something we want you to be a part of is our Facebook group, Post Mortem Show Horror Movie Podcast.
That's right. You can get on Facebook, look that up, and interact directly with JD and myself. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, share your stupid memes, get shit talked by me, just don't post racist shit.
Other than different pictures of H.P. Lovecraft.
That's the kind of racist shit that's okay to post. Look up the Facebook group, Post Mortem Show Horror Movie Podcast. Join us online.
One of us.
It's time for the good movie. And the bad movie.
Okay, we're back with the good movie and the bad movie. Well, you want to start us off then?
Sure, I'll fire away. My bad movie is a 2009 Greek horror comedy directed by Georgios Nousias, streaming now on Amazon, and it's called Evil in the Time of Heroes.
That sounds like it's not even a sentence, let alone a title for a movie.
Apparently it's a sequel to another movie just called Evil, and this was the follow-up to it, and it's called In the Time of Heroes because it has to do with ancient Greece also. But here's the synopsis. A group of people struggle to survive the undead and marauding humans when a zombie outbreak hits Athens, Greece. Things are made worse when the government decides to solve the problem by bombing the city in spite of the potential uninfected. When things seem their darkest, a hero from the ancient past returns to aid in the fight. So this was a mixed bag movie. It had some good stuff going for it, but also bogged itself down a little too much. I'm not going to shit on it too much because it was technically well made on a shoestring budget, and I'm sure there were cultural elements that I missed. I just kind of found it frustrating. I'll talk about the good parts first. First of all, there was some really good gory practical effects. The splatter was very good. There was very little CG, and what CG was used cartoonishly intentionally to kind of create some funny moments. And there were a few funny moments in it. And also something I appreciated with it was that the parts that were set in ancient Greece were actually scripted in the ancient Greek dialect. So all of the actors went and basically learned another language to make this movie.
Whoa, that's crazy. Kind of like that movie Eileen sent us with the Patrick, whatever. I can't even fucking...
Oh, William Shatner.
Patrick, what was it? Patrick Stewart is who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Well, it's same Star Trek. Yeah, so Incubus.
Yeah.
See, it's been so long since we recorded, I can't even remember any of this. Dom, take my hand, Dom. Take my hand.
Through the phone line.
We're gonna walk through the park. I promise I won't leave you alone after dark if you just take my hand.
All right, then. So one of the actors in this movie was the American actor Billy Zane, who not only learned Greek for his role, but learned ancient Greek also. So that's pretty cool. And apparently the people who made this movie really wanted to make it because no one on the cast or crew, including Billy Zane, took payments in advance for it to get made. They made the movie, and then they all just took a cut on the back end once it made its money. So
that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. It's almost unheard of.
Yeah. So it was a passion project for everyone involved, which is also a reason I'm not going to shit on it too much, because like these people obviously wanted to make this movie, but it did have some flaws. The flaws mainly was that the story jumped around too much, which made it incoherent. Like it would be in the present time, then in the past, and there wasn't anything linking it together, and it was sort of a jarring jump. And also, it couldn't decide tonally if it wanted to be a straight up horror movie or a splatter comedy. So the characters were inconsistent. Some were over the top parodies of genre archetypes, like this really great parody of like an action hero, but then others were serious average characters, and it made the serious characters seem boring and the over the top characters seem hokey, because there wasn't a balance. If it was just one way or the other, preferably in the ridiculous direction, it would have been way better. And though the movie clocked in at only an hour and 28 minutes, it seemed a lot longer because the scenes between the action or comedy dragged. They could have trimmed some fat, and it would have been way better paced. So on the whole, this was a unique take on the zombie outbreak genre, tying the zombies to ancient Greece and like, Clash of the Titans style stuff. And when it stuck to the things that made it good, namely the zany, gory madness, it was entertaining. But the other half of the movie was boring and misdirected, which made it very frustrating to watch.
Do you think it benefited from the mythology, or do you think the mythology basis like took away from it?
I think it benefited from the mythology. I just think that the way that they paced the link between the mythology and the current times was not executed well.
Kind of like that movie Muse I just reviewed a couple shows back. Same kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that if they had maybe just made a movie set in the ancient past, and then what it felt like was that they wanted to make a movie set in the ancient past, and then they wanted to make a modern follow-up to it, but they didn't know if they would have the opportunity to make that third movie, so they just kind of jammed everything into one package and went with it.
Yeah, never good.
So, yeah, I'm going to just split it right down the middle and give it 5 out of 10 Bukoffees. Bukoffee.
Starbiff's Bukoffees.
Yes.
All right, my bad movie this week, 2017, streaming now on Netflix, directed by Sam Patton, starring Alicia Oxy, Jamie Page, Toby Nichols, and Claude Humiel. It's called Desolation. Have you heard of this?
I have. I have not seen it, though.
So, I love to camp. I love to take my children, my wife camping. It's something that one of our favorite things to do as a family for family vacations and stuff. And so, camping horror movies really interest me because of the fact that when you're isolated, I even take the shotgun with me when we go camping, just in case. Maybe because I've watched too many horror movies. Maybe because I almost got attacked and killed by a bear on one of our last trips, which you could hear about in the episode entitled JD's Bear Attack. I don't know what the number is, but you want to hear that story, you can check that out. But camping horror movies, because when you get away from it all, you go to nature, you expect to be safe. You're out there away from, the ghettos. You're out there away from the threat of, getting carjacked in the city. But what if someone else is out there? So that's a very interesting concept to me. But the problem with that is the execution of it never really gets quite right.
Okay.
How many camping horror movies can you name that are really good? Wolf Creek is amazing. I love Wolf Creek. There's the Tripper is even good with the Ronald Reagan killer. Remember that?
Yeah. But not Don't Fuck in the Woods.
Yeah, not Don't Fuck in the Woods. There are so many bad ones because it's a cheap, easy concept to get a set. You don't have to pay to go film in the woods. No one's going to know what trees those are. You don't have to pay the government. You don't have to pay the city because who knows where it was, So it's kind of a crutch, kind of similar to found footage. And Desolation, I'll give you the brief synopsis. A mother takes her son and her best friend on a trip into a remote wilderness to scatter his father's ashes. They must confront their fears when a lone hiker begins following them in the woods. The kid in this movie is super annoying. They're out to scatter his dad's ashes in a place his dad loves, and all he does is complain about it the entire time. He even has the hairstyle of the Babadook kid, but he's not as bad as that kid. but pretty close.
Right.
The mom and her friend are good actresses, though. The kid is horrible. The setting is gorgeous. It's forests, mountains, and lakes. It's filmed in upstate New York, which is not the New York City that people think of. Utica, New York it's beautiful, you know. The mother's friend is hot, but doesn't really deliver on the nudity. The kid does catch her changing, but it's from behind, so you don't really get to see. It's implied a couple times, and doesn't really go there. Which you can't have a camping horror movie without nudity. I'm sorry, but you can't do it. Even Sleepaway Camp delivers on the nudity.
Yeah, sure. In its own right.
Get it? So,
sausage.
after the boy goes to bed, they drink wine and smoke some weed. When they go to pee, they find a backpack and realize they aren't alone. When they wake up, the backpack is gone. Eventually, they see the owner, and he's like a hipster Rob Zombie with a walking stick. He wears sunglasses the entire time. He's not scary at all. Just the fact that it's these two women with the kid is the only reason why he could be scary. Just because he is a threat, you know, he's someone else. That's the only reason. I would beat the fucking shit out of this guy. You know what I mean? He's not like an intimidating kind of character.
Right.
I'm not really intimidated or scared of hipsters. That's the thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's not really like a aggressive look, you know. So
yeah, it's not. It's intentionally not aggressive.
He keeps his distance, but keeps following them, and eventually the next night, the friend goes missing. Then what really comes out of how much of a fucking disrespectful little shit the boy is. He wants to argue while they're being stalked by hillbilly Rob Zombie who wears his sunglasses at night. Then it escalates, and the shit hits the fan. It's up to the boy to save the mom. So there was some cool gore, but only in to reveal something that had already happened off camera. And I hate that. If the only good gore is something that you never see, it's never good. It's great to see those great props, you know, practical effect props, but I need to see some kind of violence on screen other than just the aftermath. So, although the women were great, I would have rated this higher if not for the little boy and the killer. The killer is not intimidating. I really didn't give a shit about the kid. That's the big problem with the movie with only 4 actors. You know,
you have to have at least 1 or 2 characters that are like really likable and someone that you want there.
Well, I would say the mom and the friend are likable. I felt bad for the mom, especially, you know, with the, you know, her the dad died and the ashes thing, and she's a good actress and she did it very convincing. So you have 2, but 2 out of 4 is not a good ratio. Most movies have 100 characters. If 50 of them were bullshit and 50 of them were good, the movie would suck. So if you're going to restrict it down to 4 characters, you need all of them to be competent, in my opinion. That's, you know, that's the thing. Restricted narratives, if the actors delivering them or the writing, the dialogue, it doesn't work if it's not good, you know. When you're going to have only 4 characters, they have to all be either relatable or have some kind of effect for the plot. But this movie could have worked if the friend and the son weren't even there and it was just the mom. Even worse than that is it spirals out of control at the 50-minute mark. It's only an hour and 16 minutes long, but felt much longer. I genuinely felt bad for the mom, but as it kept going, I started not giving a fuck anymore and just wanted it to be over. IMDb gives it 4.6. I would say that's pretty close, so I'll go ahead and agree and say 4.6 of Star Biff's Bukoffees.
Steaming cups of Bukoffee. All right.
Warning, product is hot.
And sticky. All right, my good movie is 2003 Hong Kong action horror movie, directed by Wilson Chin and written and produced by legendary Hong Kong filmmaker Sui Hark, streaming now on Shudder, and it's called Sui Hark's Vampire Hunters, or The Era of Vampires.
That's a lot. That's a mouthful, though.
Yeah. On Shudder, it's Sui Hark's Vampire Hunters. In other places, if you wanted to find it, it's also called The Era of Vampires. So, in 19th century China, an evil monk awakens a nest of vampires hell-bent on devouring human life. Now a quartet of heroes, trained in the Taoist Mao Shan school of magic and kung fu, and their master, must use their unique powers to destroy the vampire king and its lethal coven before it's too late. So if you know me, you know that I love a good Jiang Shi movie. I even love a bad Jiang Shi movie. And it just so happens that this was a quality movie from a genre that doesn't get enough credit for its awesomeness. This is the same genre as Mr. Vampire, but this was a slightly more serious movie. Um, it was a good blend of action, horror, and bits of comedy that never took itself too seriously, but was still competently made and really entertaining. It had everything a good kung fu movie needs: a talented cast of performers who act and do stunts, put on good fight scenes, and do physical comedy periodically to lighten the mood. It had martial arts masters, evil sorcerers, hopping vampires, the whole nine. It was just fun from beginning to end. I think the highest points of this movie were with the fights, the wire work, and the costumes. The Jiang Shi looked really gnarly and gross, and there was a whole lot of splatter. The vampires actually, instead of like biting people to get their blood, they would like draw it out of them in a mist through the air, which was a cool idea.
What? Like osmosis or something?
It would like get close to them and start making this like really big sucking sound, and the blood would start like coming out as a mist through their skin and their eyes and their nose and their mouth.
Whoa, that's a very interesting concept and different than any kind of vampire movie I've ever seen. So that's pretty cool.
Very unique. It harkened back to movies like Mr. Vampire and Encounters of the Spooky Kind, two of my favorite Asian horror movies, by bringing in jokes and fight routines that popped up in those movies as a tribute to the past. My only complaint was that there were some questionable CG effects that were totally unnecessary. It took me out of the scenes, and everything that they were doing with it could have been accomplished just as well practically as proven by movies of the 80s that did it without crappy digital effects. Though, despite that, on the whole, this was still a fun, entertaining movie that delivered the goods in terms of action, gore, and jokes, and I was very happy with it, and will probably be watching it again. So I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10 hot, steaming cups of Star Biff's Bukoffee.
Star Biff's Bukoffee. People, brew your own at home. You don't need to pay $5 a day in the morning before you go to work to get your Star Biff's Bukoffee. You just get yourself a pot. You get yourself a blind retarded dog. You squeeze him. You warm him up, right? You put him in the hot tub for a couple minutes. Warm him up. Warm his insides up. You squeeze him into the pot. You have your very own Star Biff's Bukoffee brewed right at home. I'm going to save you. If you follow my plan, I'll save you $5 a day.
Okay.
That's all you have to say?
Yeah, that's all I have to say because I can't argue with your logic.
I'm just trying to save money for the listeners, You can afford a $5 Patreon if you don't buy that Star Biff's Bukoffee.
That's true. That's right.
All right, so my good movie this week is something we talked about on Horror News before. It's a 2016 Polish thriller directed by Alexandro Avranas, streaming now on Amazon, starring Jim Carrey, Martin Kousakis, and Charlotte Gainsbourg. Dark Crimes. Remember talking about this? Dark Crimes with Jim Carrey?
Yes, I do, from the news.
Yeah. So, a murder investigation of a slain businessman turns to clues found in an author's book about an eerily similar crime. It's based on the 2008 article True Crimes, a postmodern murder mystery by David Grant. So it's loosely based on an article which was loosely based on a true story. So it's a lot of bullshit with a little bit of fact, as far as the actual occurrences of what happened in real life. Opens up with the credits interspersed with shots of a dark hallway, screaming, a naked woman tied up, and Jim Carrey eating bacon and eggs.
All right.
Jim Carrey is all serious, no alrighty thens or butt talking, none of that. He plays an American homicide detective who works and lives in Poland, which is never explained why. Or maybe he is Polish and he just couldn't be bothered to have a Polish accent. So that's a problem, right? This is in English with accents that are maybe Polish. They don't really sound Polish to me. They don't sound Eastern European. They just sound sort of like they watch some, English accent movies. Which, this is a pet peeve of mine. When you don't know the language and you just put in English accents, like the movie Enemy at the Gates. It's a movie about Russians versus Germans in World War II. And the Russians have English accents. It's not subtitles or anything. Just everyone speaks with an English accent if they're not American. So
yeah, it's especially if they're bad guys.
I kind of wish that it was subtitled instead of just the English accents, but what are you going to do? At least the people don't have the normal lazy English accent, and it's just as weird. Maybe they're trying to be Polish, but just not mastering it. So he has unusual methods, such as having his partner drag him through the woods like a dead body. He reviews tapes of a cold case of a murder at an underground sex club called The Cage. Compares them to an audiobook that is strikingly similar, so he becomes convinced that the writer is somehow involved. The problem is, none of this is explained very well to the viewer for the first 25 minutes of the movie, so it becomes extremely confusing. So I may sound like I'm burying this movie. It is my good movie of the week because it's better than my bad movie, but there are some major issues here. So
okay.
I thought I wasn't going to like this movie at all till 30 minutes in, we meet the writer, Kozlo. And he's the best part of the movie. He chews up all the scenes with Carrie in the interrogation room one-on-one, and it really shows a crack in Ace Ventura's serious acting chops when in a room with someone vastly superior.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting comparison to see.
You know, because he's trying his best, but what has he got compared to this guy who, I don't know, I've never seen this guy before, but just the skill is there, you know, you can tell. So
right.
It's a slow and gritty movie. I would say a polar opposite of Ace Ventura. If you're an extremely confused Jim Carrey fan and stumbled upon this, you would hate this movie.
Like people responded to the number 23 that way?
Pretty much, yeah. The name Dark Crimes was adapted for the U.S. release, but it was also called True Crimes. I'm glad they changed it because the director must have also watched a shitload of True Detective. Very derivative of True Detective. You can feel he's going for a similar vibe. The names are too similar, and I probably would have avoided this as a cheap riff-off based on the title, the summary, and the box art, but I'm glad I didn't, though. Like I said, it's a slow burn, but it does deliver on some brutality, a little bit of violence, not so much gore, but a lot of graphic nudity, and just Jim Carrey kind of sold me about the halfway mark, because he plays sad and, like, emotion very well. He just can't do the Polish accent and be serious in normal scenes. But, like, when he is on the reel, you know, when he's in the second act, you know, when shit's not going good for him, he's very relatable. So, that's one thing I can say positive about him. So, I love Ace Ventura. I just don't like anything other than that he ever did.
Really? I really like the number 23.
I did not care for the number 23. I thought that he was... actually, I love Man on the Moon. When he played Andy Kaufman, that's great. But yeah, number 23, I was not too fond of. So,
did you see the documentary about Jim Carrey and Man on the Moon about how he like lost his personality to Andy Kaufman?
Yeah, I think it's a bunch of bullshit though. I don't think it's true. It was very entertaining though. It's on Netflix now. If you guys are into the whole Andy Kaufman, Jim Carrey, and Man on the Moon thing, check that one out. It's called Jim and Andy.
I think it's probably an Andy Kaufman-esque work, but it's still very entertaining.
So while this movie is not a perfect movie, I think it's much better than the number 23, Carrier's other serious thriller. I do wish we got more of the backstory and what happened at the cage. The movie's third act is its bread and butter. I don't know if it was a bad edit, but the first act didn't make sense and it dragged. It all leads up to a pretty fucked up ending. This movie is gray. That's the best way to describe it. There's no true good or evil, just something in between, like a gray area, but also it's dreary and slow, like the color gray as well. Just this is a gray ass movie, you know. I don't know how if that's understandable when I describe it as just gray,
no, that totally
but
makes sense.
Yeah. So IMDb gives us a 5.2. I think it's a little bit better than that. I would have rated it a full point higher if it wasn't for an extended close up of Jim Carrey's face during orgasm. I didn't need to see Ace Ventura's cum face.
Does he go rubber face with it?
It's pretty bad. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7.1 star Biff's Bukoffees.
Okay. Did you ever see Once Bitten, the vampire movie he did really early in his career?
Yeah, that shit's fucking ridiculous, too. It's pretty good. Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Cool. That's a good and bad.
That's it for the good movie and the bad movie. We will be back with our top 5 surgery scenes after this.
Hi, thanks for listening to the Post Mortem podcast. If you want to support us, go to our website at www.postmortemshow.com and click the Amazon link.
By clicking on the Amazon banner, Amazon will give a small percentage of the purchase price of your item back to the Post Mortem podcast at no additional cost to you. That's right. It doesn't cost you any money. We get money. You want us to keep doing this? You want more Doug Jones talk? You want more dick and fart talk? I don't care. We're going to do it.
Fund our filthy, filthy habits.
Yes, and they are many and they are fast.
And most of them aren't legal.
Yes. Click the banner. Just do it.
Come on, don't be a dick. Give us money.
Can you hear me?
Hey, we're back! Sort of. I mean, I'm here. Dom's
You're there.
on the phone via Skype.
I'm in cyberspace.
Hopefully we fixed the moderate echo. If not, we apologize. But at least we're at least we're putting out the episode, you know. We're trying to stay on task here, you know. It's very hard for me. It's very hard for me to live a normal life, Tom. It's hard for me to get up in the morning when my alarm goes off. It's hard for me to get in the shower, you know.
Yeah. I know that feeling.
It's hard for me not to go on a fucking killing spree.
You're not allowed to say that anymore. That's against the law to say. The FBI will be at your house in approximately 3 minutes.
Probably so. Actually, David's school got a school shooting threat. Some kid casually joked about shooting up the school on the last day of school, which is not something to joke about, but yeah, they went way overboard with it. I think the kid's been expelled and stuff, which is probably the right punishment, you know, but...
Yeah, you got to take that shit seriously.
You do, and half of the kids weren't at school today, so maybe I shouldn't be joking about that, but it is what it is. This is Postmortem. Yeah. This is what we do here. Surgeries, Dom, it's your topic, so why don't you just take the reins here? You tell me what's your number 5 surgery.
All right. My number 5 is from a movie from the late 1980s called Faceless, and it's the no anesthesia face transplant.
I've never heard of this. Is it good?
It's the movie itself is kind of slow and dry, but the special effects are very good. All of the surgery scenes are really good, and they show everything. It's, you know, like an early, you know, predecessor to American Guinea Pig or something like that on that level.
Awesome.
So it's slow to get to the payoff scenes for the movie, but the payoff scenes are worth the wait.
Yeah, I'll have to check out Faceless. I never fucking seen that. I never heard of it even. I didn't even come up in my research.
1988 maybe was when it came out.
All right, my number 5 is very, very low-hanging fruit, Dom. Low-hanging fruit this week with my number 5. My number 5 horror movie surgery is the human centipede.
Yeah?
It's technically a surgery.
It is. It is a surgical procedure.
Ass to mouth. It's not ass to ass. It's ass to mouth.
Gums to butthole.
Eat. Eat.
I'm sorry. That's pretty much, we just summed up all of that movie in like 3 minutes of sound bites.
Yeah, human centipede.
Cool. All right. My number 4 is a movie that isn't necessarily technically classified as a horror movie, I don't think, but it's still quite unnerving. And that's a movie called Awake. And it's about a guy who gets anesthesia before having open heart surgery, and it stops his body, but his brain remains awake. And it's him basically experiencing every moment and feeling every moment of open heart surgery, and his brain spiraling out of control in the process.
That's crazy. So is he just screaming the entire time? In his mind's eye? Ah!
It's similar in tone to something like Gerald's Game or Johnny Got His Gun, where, you know, he's
it breaks reality. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. And I think it's Hayden Christensen in it, the dude who was in the terrible Star Wars prequels, but he's actually pretty good in this.
What was the name again?
Awake.
I gotta check that out. That sounds really interesting to me. So
yeah, very good movie.
My number 4, speaking of very good movies, something that does not get talked about enough in horror, but we talk about just enough here on the Post Mortem Show. Movie I made you watch with me, here in the B Ward, and Excision.
Yeah.
The surgery scene in Excision. I'm not going to give away any spoilers. There's a surgery scene in Excision.
It's a fucked up payoff.
But Excision is an awkward horror movie, to say the least.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite of all time. We really need to redo our top 100s. Now that we have 100 episodes, we need to redo our top 100 movies that's on our website.
It's weird because it's not a horror movie until the final act. And then it becomes a horror movie. And,
I would say it's horrific.
The transition is so good. Yeah, what's done at the end and the way they transition to it is so horrific that it absolutely deserves to be talked about on the show, and we have on multiple occasions. It's very unique in that way, that it goes where you don't expect it to. Like, when you first watch it, it feels like it's going to be like an awkward teen comedy, like a slightly less ridiculous Napoleon Dynamite, and then it just goes dark.
It's very dark.
Yeah.
And it's very humorous, too.
Yeah.
With the herpes and stuff, it works on many different levels. So Excision, my number 4.
Yeah. All right, my number 3 is one that I have talked about in this movie before, and it might have even come up on one of my lists for like our favorite dismemberments or something like that. But that is the improvised leg amputation and cauterization scene in the ruins.
On my honorable mention, that is fucking disgusting. Yeah. That movie is not that great, but that scene is great.
Yeah, that's the rest of the movie, not that memorable, but that scene was. It sucks that they had to put the money shot, in the first act of the movie, but it really is a very, very well done, intense scene where they're breaking the leg off with rocks and they've got the hot frying pan. It's good.
My number 3 / number 2 tie. So I'll say my number 2 part 1. Since it's a tie.
Okay.
Usually my ties, I don't reserve different numbers, but I had to in this instance because my number 3 is Guinea Pig, Flower of Flesh and Blood.
Yeah. The
living dissection. And something way ahead of its time.
Absolutely.
Charlie Sheen called the FBI.
He did. He was probably on coke when he did it. I mean,
he probably did.
There, but...
I watched this movie and it gave me AIDS.
It wasn't all the strippers and hookers he was humping. It was definitely the American Guinea Pig movie.
No, regular Guinea Pig. Flower of Flesh and Blood.
Regular Guinea Pig.
Yeah, Guinea Pig too.
We talked about American Guinea Pig so much that, like, when I say Guinea Pig, American comes out first.
Yeah, and Flower of Flesh and Blood, man, it holds up. The graphics still hold up, and it's brutal and deserves to be seen. So.
Yeah,
my number 3.
Not only are the special effects good, but the way that they kind of shoot it so it looks grainy, like it's shot on a hand cam, really hid what they couldn't accomplish with special effects. It was very well done.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, my number 2 is another movie that was in actually the same vein as Awake, kind of, where it's not strictly a horror movie, but it's a scary-ass situation that results in something pretty horrific. And that's 127 Hours, the pocket knife arm amputation.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. While not a horror movie, it is one of the most brutal things in like the scenario of it.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Alive.
Yeah, I don't, because Alive is, it's a horror movie. It's not like a supernatural horror movie or a monster movie, but it is a horrific situation, and it's like a realistic, scary situation. And I think 127 Hours is sort of in that vein also. But the thing about that scene that really got me was the sound design for it, especially in the last moments of it where he has to cut through that last nerve. And just the screeching on the edge of your teeth sound that it made was amazing.
All right, 127 Hours is Dom's number 2. We talked a lot about my number 2 already because of Dom mistaking Guinea Pig for American Guinea Pig.
Yeah.
My number 2 is American Guinea Pig, Bouquet of Guts and Gore. Like you said about the grainy film footage, American Guinea Pig, Bouquet of Guts and Gore. Former guest on the show, Stephen Byro as the director. Marcus Cook on effects. The best team in underground horror. Those two men, when they work together, can do no wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really was a dream team effort. I was very impressed by that movie.
And a throwback, but it's also its own. And I put it at my number 2 instead of 3 because honestly, I like American Guinea Pig more than regular Guinea Pig. Maybe
Right.
controversial, but it is better. It's better.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Guinea Pig was the original. It set the standard, but American Guinea Pig had almost 20 years of time between the two movies and better technology to create those special effects, which were all practical, but
Yeah.
still just better polymers and things exist to work with to create what they created.
And I think that honestly, like, I talk a lot of shit about the effects in a lot of these mainstream movies, but you got to thank Marcus Cook for that because Marcus Cook, his effects are flawless, so
Yeah.
realistic, so disgusting,
Hmm.
and they can't get it right in mainstream Hollywood. They're not even on the level. They
Yeah.
can't get. This guy should be making millions and millions of dollars and be doing the effects for everything that you see. But
Yeah.
instead, they'd rather use a fucking computer, and it
You know, I,
kills me.
I have a theory about that. I think that they're not using him because his effects are so good that it sets the bar too high for the next mainstream movie they want to make. And they know that when he does that, he's just going to cost more and more and more.
Either that, or it just breaks the fucking comfort level. If it
Yeah,
looks too real, it might break the comfort level. If it is computer animated and obviously fake, maybe that's more mainstream. Maybe they can make more money at the box office
yeah.
with the Marvel Avengers kind of fucking violence rather than the true gritty nature of violence and dismemberment.
Yeah, that is true. That's definitely another factor. And really, most of the movies that have really good gore scenes ultimately come out of the independent film scene. So,
Yes.
that's probably more of a realistic, less conspiratorial way of looking at it.
Yeah, you can't make a buck if you're alienating portions of the audience, right? So,
Right.
so it's left to the true artist to get it right.
Yep. Um, cool. Well, speaking of independent horror movies that have great gory special effects, my number one movie is a little movie from 2008 called Autopsy. Um, it's an independent film about a group of college kids who go to Mardi Gras or going to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and their car breaks down, and they get picked up and taken to this clinic where this mad scientist is doing all of these horrible surgical experiments on people. So really, my pick for this is the whole movie because there's all kinds of fucked up shit happening. But the very end, the girl walks in and finds her friend on an operating table with his guts pulled out and strung up on wires all around him to make a tree. So it's equally like horrific and beautiful. And yeah, it's a movie that we haven't talked about very much on this show, and
I
I
don't
really
even
want
think
to go
I've
back and
seen
watch
that.
again. Yeah,
Autopsy?
Autopsy. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 2008. And I don't know that the people. I'm actually pulling it up on IMDb right now. I don't know that the people who made it made anything else. Oh, yeah, the director was involved in Tales of Halloween.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, Tales of Halloween had some good segments, so maybe one of the good ones was his.
Yeah. Oh,
All
he
right.
also did the 2009 Night of the Demons remake. So that's a bad
Ah,
mark
fuck
for
that
him.
guy then. You know what? Fuck
That's a
you,
bad mark
Autopsy.
for him.
I'll never see it. Edward Furlong, you put Night of the Demons, the first horror movie I ever saw in my entire life, VHS. Night of the Demons got me into the genre. Got this podcast wouldn't fucking exist if it wasn't for Night of the Demons. And you put your fucking bloody Furlong hands on it. You're dead to me. Dead to me,
Well,
Autopsy Director. Dead.
maybe that was the studio that did it though. Like maybe he had to bow to their whims.
No,
Autopsy
there's
still
so
looks
much
really
horrible
awesome.
shit going on in Night of the Demons, the remake, that
Yeah,
no, it's just bad. It's
it's a
not.
bad movie.
It's bad. Yeah, you could put Shannon Elizabeth and Edward Furlong on it and be firm on that and make him do it, and it would still be at least okay if it wasn't so shitty. You know,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
can't you
he
can't
he
blame
did.
it on the studio. It's atrocious.
He also did the trick. It was the trick thing in Tales of Halloween.
I don't remember. I can't remember based on names which one it was. Is that the kid?
I think so.
Yeah, that was my favorite one then. The one with the kid and the demon guy.
Oh no, that was the night Billy raised hell.
Oh
Trick
yeah.
was the one with Trent Haga and Tiffany Sheepus in it, where they're smoking weed at the house, and the trick or treaters show up, and the little girls come in and fuck them all up.
Oh, the witches? Yeah, that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. I like that one. So,
Yeah. So
all right,
maybe he was
unfuck
drunk
you.
when he made Night of the Demons.
Yeah, unfuck you, autopsy director, and then fuck you again.
Right.
My number one is the cesarean scene in Inside.
Yeah.
The original. Fuck the Inside remake. The original Inside, one of the best home invasion movies of all time. I'm not going to say anything else about it.
Yeah.
You know, because I want, if you haven't seen it, check it out. But Inside, the culmination of the entire movie is something so horrific that you have to see it to believe it. So, Inside,
I'll say something else about it. I'll say don't see the American version at all.
Yes, indeed. It hurt my soul to watch that, especially based on who it was made by Miguel Angel Vivas or Angel Vivas, the director of Kidnapped Sequestrados, making the remake of Inside. I expected it to be actually great, and it didn't hurt me to know that it was made. But then when I saw it, it put a mark on my soul, Dom, and I was never the same. It did to me the same thing that man in the white van did in my childhood.
It didn't just put a mark on your heart and your mind and your soul. It put a mark on your butthole.
Yep. Don't see the remake. See the original. Inside.
All right. So I have a couple honorable mentions that you didn't mention. My first one is a scene where it actually is good because of what you don't see and the way that it was just kind of artfully executed, and that's the brain transplant scene in Get Out.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Also, a movie that is questionable for some viewers, though I enjoyed it, especially compared to its sequel. But I think the alien auto-abortion scene in Prometheus was really cool, where she has to get in the machine and get the alien out of her before it kills her.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Prometheus, too long.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of the end of the franchise for me. I mean, I guess the beginning of the end started way before that, if you want to think about everything other than Aliens, after Aliens. But that, for me, it was so good in parts and so bad in parts. I knew that I was so happy to see parts at the beginning of it, you know? But how it dragged, I knew, oh, that's what we're going to get. We're going to get more of this. That's where they're going. And then I checked out.
There was a great fan edit of that movie called Derelict, where they cut out all the stupid shit and cut it down to about like a 70-minute movie, and it made it so much better.
Sometimes a concise edit will truly be the right way to go, you know?
Yeah.
You can have a director's cut for the true fans, but you don't want to make everyone else bored to death with the movie, with things that really have no premise in the movie, so.
Yeah. And my last one should probably be my zero on this, but it's not really surgery in the medical sense, and that's Ash amputating his own hand in Evil Dead 2.
Yes, it is an amputation. It is on my honorable mentions as well, but not a true surgery. I was trying to look for things that were performed by actual professionals.
Right.
I guess Excision isn't professional, but she did read a book.
She wanted to be a professional.
Dr. Dieter, professional. I think that little Japanese guy knew what he was doing, you know?
Yeah.
The woman from Inside, I guess I'm full of shit.
No,
there's not that many professionals.
The woman was a professional. She just wasn't a professional doctor.
yeah, she might have been a businesswoman.
Yeah.
All right, so my honorable mentions. Jacob's Ladder, while not specific surgery, there's a lot of medical horror involved, so I wanted to mention it, but it couldn't make the list.
Yeah.
Boxing Helena.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about amputations, and I think we went there a little heavily, but Sherilyn Fenn looking like $1 million in that movie, and Julian Sands, such a little pansy.
Being Julian Sands, he's a pansy, but
playing
he's
himself
in
there, playing himself in that role.
Yeah. You know, I said that I watched all of Gotham in the last couple of weeks. They bring in Julian Sands to play the father of the villain Scarecrow in that show, and he's so good in the little scene that he has.
Julian Sands is a great actor.
Yeah,
in Boxing Helena, he's so annoying though. It's his worst role ever.
Yeah.
So American Mary, my next one.
Yeah.
Plastic surgery is still surgery. Tusk. Walrus surgery.
Walrus surgery. I gotta get me a walrusectomy.
The twin split in regurgitated sacrifice. I thought that was going to be your number one.
It's
a surgery, but it's pretty amateur.
it's yeah, hacksaw surgery. It's like a Civil War surgery.
Aftermath. Movie Aftermath, which is just films an autopsy. Have you seen that? Really? No. Yeah, you got to check out Aftermath. It's pretty crazy. All it is an autopsy and some fucking of a body, and it's pretty crazy. Doesn't really have a plot. Okay. Audition. I guess you could say that's some kind of surgery.
Yeah.
Hannibal, the brain surgery in Hannibal.
Yeah.
I guess it is a surgery and also sort of a meal, you know.
Yeah, and Hannibal's a doctor.
And he is a doctor, so he's a professional. You talked about The Ruins, which I put on the same level as Turistas, which was an organ harvesting travel horror movie that came out. Not much fanfare for Turistas, and it's not great, but it does get pretty brutal and gritty. I like the way the lighting is on the gore. The blood seems disgusting and realistic. They sedate people and take their organs while they're still awake. Have you seen this?
No, actually, it came up a lot in my research, and I really kind of do want to see it.
It came out like in the same time as like The Hostel, that group of movies, you know, that kind of craze. And it's not a great movie by any means, but some of the surgery scenes are very gritty, and the doctor character is. I should have put him on my honorable mentions when we did our doctors, honestly, because I really did enjoy his portrayal. So, Ash's Hand from Evil Dead, like you said, and my last one could have been my number one or even my number 0, but sometimes I catch a little bit of flack from the listeners for bringing up movies that aren't necessarily horror but have horror elements. And the surgery scene, sometimes it doesn't have to be surgery of a person, Tom. There can be surgery to inanimate objects, such as Pee Wee Herman's bike in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
So that would have been my number one. I'm just going to be honest. I love Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I love Ernest Scared Stupid. And
they are horror movies, in spite of what anyone might say.
They are, and I have some children. I love me Ernest Scared Stupid, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and American Guinea Pig.
Yeah.
Family movies.
Cool. Well, I guess that's what we have.
That's it. That's it for our top 5 surgeries, and we will be back live in the flesh, in person, Dom. I miss you, Dom. I miss you.
I do too.
And it's been too long since you were here in the B ward. And next week, when we're reunited, we're going to do some Post Mortem karaoke, because we're going to be reunited. It's going to feel so good.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
All right, that's it for Top 5 Surgeries. We will be back next week. Dom will be here in the studio. The audio quality will improve. We won't be doing this Skype recording bullshit. We will be here. Biff will be here. Biff is not on the premises today. He said he couldn't be bothered. He wanted to Skype in too, which he did. He's on the line. This is a third-way call. We have Biff on the line. He doesn't really say much because he's a retarded dog and he can't talk, but he's here. So, but next week we'll all be together.
That's right. And for those of you listening, if you enjoy this show, go check out our Patreon. Become a patron, get some extra content. Go subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. Those numbers matter, and give us those 5-star reviews. All of those things help us make this show better for you.
And coming soon, the new Post Mortem show shirts. We didn't talk about it in horror news. Kind of forgot about it. Almost tried to shoehorn it in at the end, but we have commissioned Japanese artist Sayo Ozawa, one of the greatest artists working today, to design the new Post Mortem show shirts. We're so excited to bring them to you. Patreon patrons. I can never say it. Are they Patreons? Are they patrons? I don't know what they are, but thank you for giving us your money. $50 patrons are going to get a free shirt. $20 are going to get 20% off. Something like that. We're going to work it out. Everyone's going to get a discount if you're a patron member. We're going to sell some shirts.
And the rest of you can just buy them.
And the rest of you can just buy them. But It's going to be the greatest shirt ever.
Yeah,
You're going to want to wear it every day. Don't wash
this
it.
artist is fantastic. He does a lot of the shirts for deathmatch wrestlers. He did one for JD. He did one for Mick Foley. So if he's going to do a Mick Foley shirt, then who better to go to?
Yeah, but who do you ever beat?
Who do you ever beat? Al Snow.
Good point.
All right. Well, I guess as H.P. Lovecraft once said, as he got up early in the morning and went out into the kitchen and lubed up and made his own non-$5 freshly brewed cup of hot, steamy Bukoffee. If it smells like fish,
throw the fucker back.
I like Bukoffee. 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 I'm a lucky for your love. I like it funky. You like it funky. I like it funky. You like it funky. I like it funky. You like it funky. I'm a funky junkie for your love.
all right. Now is the time of the show where we give our patrons what they have paid for. The opportunity to hear my golden voice speak their name and JD's golden shower voice say something about them.
Golden shower voice?
Yeah.
I'll take
Patreon shout-outs. All right. Our
golden years, no one's gonna get you. Golden years.
What? All right. Our first patron is Mr. Mark B.
Mark, thank you so much. Mark, I gotta break the fourth wall here with you. You know, we're gonna say Mark B. You know, but we know what your last name is. You know, it's Bartlett, and I don't want to say that. I'm not supposed to say the last names anymore. We've agreed on that. We're going to say the first name and the last initial, but I didn't get to say this, and I've been thinking about it the entire time. It's not that clever, Mark, but Bartlett, Mark Bartlett, it reminds me of when people see me on the beach in my thong. They say that man is shaped like a Bartlett pear with a rubber band wrapped around it. And thank you for being a patron. Mark B, the anonymous Mark B.
Right. Eileen K, our super patron.
Eileen, thank you so much for the movies. Thank you so much for your patronage. And also, recommending the show to others. So, we really appreciate you and everything you do for us.
Spreading that word. Eileen is so awesome that even though she gets my music for free by being one of our patrons, she went and bought my most recent album anyway. All of you should be that awesome.
All of you should pay twice. Dom.
Hey, it's $5, man. www.mechanicalghost.com. Our next patron is Raymond V, new patron.
Raymond, thank you so much for getting on board. I've shipped your stickers out. I've sent you a personal handwritten note describing my love and all the things I want to do to you for being a patron. Inappropriate things. Such as, give me your social security number. Give me your bank account number. Give me the identities of your children. Inappropriate things like that. You thought I was going somewhere dirty. I just want your money. You're not paying us enough, Raymond. Please. I'm going to start selling out webcam shows. Post Mortem webcam show. Give us your tokens. Give us your gold.
All right. Our next patron is Brent W.
Brent, thank you so much for being a patron. One of our longest reigning, maybe the first patron. I think Brent was the first patron.
Brent and Eileen and one of our other patrons that we'll be mentioning later down the line all came in on the very first day.
I think so. And Brent, I believe, was number one. Like within 30 seconds or a minute, he was the first. And Brent, you're the speed racer of my heart and my loins. Thank you so much for being our patron.
Here comes Brent Racer. So if he's the speed racer of your heart, can me and you be that fat kid and his monkey friend?
I don't watch that shit, Dom. What is Speed Racer?
Oh. Okay, never mind then.
No, I know what it is, but I've never actually watched it.
Oh.
I was a weird kid, Dom. I didn't watch any of the cartoons. I really didn't. I watched Looney Tunes maybe. I remember that. But all the rest, I didn't really watch it. I was watching horror movies. I was fucked up. I was a fucked up kid.
I guess so.
That's what bred me today. That's why we're all here right now listening to this patron speech.
Because you didn't watch cartoons.
Yeah.
And I'm here because my mother didn't love me enough. That's not true at all.
You're here because your mother didn't love you enough and your father loved you entirely too much and inappropriately.
Which is why I walk funny.
That's why the back brace came about.
You thought it was a wrestling injury. Well, it was kind of wrestling. But...
This is getting entirely inappropriate. Let's continue.
For the first 10 years of my life, I didn't know thumb wrestling involved both people touching hands. All right, where are we now? Mr. Tim M.
Tim, thank you so much for being a patron. You know, this is a rash of new patrons this week, and each one of you that have joined since our hiatus and our old episodes were recorded, which were new to you. They weren't old. You know, at least we kept going. We really appreciate you guys hopping on board the Post Mortem train. And please, listeners, all you new patrons like Tim, patrons? How do you say it, Don? What are they? They're patrons, but it's Patreon, right?
They're patrons from Patreon.
Patrons
from an alien race.
All you Patreons, let us know how you like the bonus content. Let us know what you think about the stories, the off topics. Let us know what you want more of. I spend entirely too much on the stroke stocks. If you like them, tell me you want them to stay, or I'm eliminating the stroke stocks. We're gonna have the Postmortem News Network. We're gonna have horror news videos, and that's gonna be a new thing. Stroke stocks are taking a long time. They're not that good. Let us know what you like, what you don't like.
I would also like to incidentally note that that Tim M is also one of our newer patrons. He came on May 20th, which was the anniversary of Randy Savage's death, so I am henceforth referring to him as Macho Tim.
Oh yeah, Macho Tim. Dig it!
Snap into a Slim Jim. A vegetarian Slim Jim for you.
Yeah, pretty much. Snap into a Slim Biff.
Our next patron, some lady named Michelle R. I don't know who that would be.
Michelle, thank you so much for your patronage and everything you do. I just want to come out on the record saying you are a very good person, and I like you a lot, and I just want you to know that.
Yeah. Well, I'll be very honest here. Michelle is the Michelle that I speak of when I speak of my girlfriend, and she is such an awesome girlfriend that she insists on paying to Patreon. She insists on buying tickets to our wrestling shows, and she insists on buying my music from me. She will not let me tell her no and just give it to her.
Dom, you're technically a prostitute because I know you two, you have some nocturnal transgressions, and she's giving you money, Dom. You are a man whore. Dom Bigelow, male gigolo.
But to drive the point home, if my own girlfriend can spend $5 to buy my album, then you can go to www.
This is a Patreon shout-out. You're not going to do your cheap shills here. This is entirely inappropriate. I still haven't taken out the commercials yet for the patrons, which in the Patreon early access episodes, which I feel really bad about. I'm trying my best, but I am only one man, Dom. You're one broken man. You're not even helping me out, Dom. It's been all me. I'm burning the candle at both ends, Dom. I got 4 kids. I've been remodeling my house. I have concussion issues. I don't even remember my name, but I'm making it work. Wait, what was I saying?
I don't
I remember I was bitching about you.
Yeah, something about that. But our next patron is Aubrey T.
Aubrey T, thank you so much for your patronage and for everything else that you do for me specifically.
That's right.
And I'm going to list those things right now for all of our patrons to know. You know that little line of skin in between your balls and your asshole?
Yeah, the quiche, if you will.
Let's move on to our next patron.
The grundle. That's my favorite term for that, the grundle. I think that's way better than taint.
The grundle.
Yeah. All right, our next patron is Mr. Joseph C.
Joseph. Joe. J-Dog. Thank you for being a patron. I couldn't do it without you. You specifically, Joseph, because you know what? You are my favorite person in the entire world. I wish I could adopt you. I'll kill all my kids right now as they sleep, and you can sleep in their beds. I'll make a blanket out of their skin for you, Joseph, because you're a new patron and I love you.
Our next patron
I'm glad this is behind a paywall.
Our next patron is The Hero Within, a clothing line that you can look up on Facebook at The Hero Within.
You scratch our back, we scratch yours. Let's get a Hero Within Morty Biff crossover. Let's print some thongs. Let's print some G-strings. Decorative ball cups, if you will.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being a patron, Hero Within. Again, one of our first patrons, and slowly but surely we're climbing the ranks. This show has been now, in addition to covering all of our costs for producing the show, I know today's episode doesn't reflect the upgrade in audio equipment we're about to have, but Dom will be here in the studio, and we're going to record, and you're going to see it's going to get a little better. Slowly but surely. I'm ordering some wigs, all right? We have wigs. Stay tuned on the Patreon. The wigs will be used, and you will enjoy it.
Hey, no good can come from wigs. And our final patron that we will be listing today, Ms. Valerie T.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for being a patron. Again, I think I'm being a little repetitive. I haven't done this for a while, Dom. I'm kind of on my heels. Heels, Dom. We're about 2 hours in now. It's been a long show. After not recording for a while, I don't got much else to say. But Valerie, I love you. You're my mother.
It's a good thing to say to your mother.
Yeah.
I just say stop beating me.
Thank you for keeping the molestation down to a minimum during my childhood. Down to a low to mid minimum.
That was very polite of her. All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up. So we will see you guys next week.
And if it smells like fish,
throw the fucker back.
Yuck!